my philosophical question of the day in the football world. Do upsets exist in the NFL? Because I would dare to say that they don't.
I would dare to say that you're wrong, and they happen. They do happen. And would
uh,
you like to give your defense first?
yeah, sure. Um, so I got some anecdotal examples first. I'll start super surface level, and then I'll absolutely grill your shit later. Um, Last season, Super Bowl winner Chiefs. They lose to the Broncos 24-9. The year before that, the Eagles, runner up in the Super Bowl. They lose to the Commanders when they're 8-0. The year before that, the Buffalo Bills, AFC Championship Buffalo Bills, the 13-2 Buffalo Bills, if you will. They lose to the 2-win Jacksonville Jaguars. Josh Allen beat Josh Allen pretty bad in that game. Um, and then the year before that, the infamous Rams and Jets, the number one overall pick Sam Darnold stuff. Um, what a game that was.
Trojans. Shout out USC.
Frank Gore on the Jets, by the way. Wow.
Okay.
So those I would consider upsets, but my or actually, let me rephrase that. You could consider those upsets. I do not because they happen every year to every good team. It's not, it's not a comet flying across the sky that you see once every 100 years. It happens with regularity. It happens every single year. These are professional football teams who can also beat other professional football teams. That's my
Okay.
first defense.
Well, you know how to refute an argument. I'll tell you what, because you built up my argument and brought it down. So I'll say this: I agree with you that those things happen every year. Last year, there was a time where both the Eagles and 49ers were undefeated, and within hours of each other, they both lost their first games to teams no one expected. The Browns, led by PJ Walker,
Yes.
Temple legend. Here we go.
Go Owls.
And go Owls. Browns were 2-2 going into that game. And like I mentioned, 49ers were undefeated. A few hours later, Eagles lost to the 2-3 Jets without Aaron Rodgers. Um, I do think it's an upset because, you know, the way Christian McCaffrey, you expect to have a good game. He has 43 rush yards versus the Browns. All right. And to that point, regardless, it was a close game. And even late in the game, ESPN Analytics had the 49ers at a 77.5 chance to win. That was in the first quarter. And then at the end of the game, the 49ers had a chance to win. And he missed a 41-yard, Jake Moody of the 49ers missed a 41-yard field goal that would have won the game. I consider that an upset personally. We're going to flip over to the Eagles game where, it's kind of a last drive type of situation. It hits a 2-minute warning. And at the 2-minute warning, the Eagles had an 84.1% chance to win the game over the Jets. The first play after the 2-minute warning, the Jets intercepted the ball and return it to the 8-yard line of the Eagles. The very next play after that, Breece Hall 8-yard touchdown run to go ahead. And then right after that, Eagles turnover on downs with the chance to win the game. To me, that is an upset because if that's not an upset, what is? In my mind, because you could say upsets happen in NCAA basketball every year. That doesn't make Temple beating Houston any less surprising. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I would say upset to me is you have a clear in your mind at the start of the game. Yeah, this team's probably going to win this game. And then, of course, the gambling odds go to that. People like to gamble on the favorite. And then you have parlays broken. You have this breaking news aspect to it where it's like down goes number one. To me, that is the same thing in the NFL. That's what we've seen throughout the. You've made the point of it that yes, it does happen pretty often, but to me that doesn't make it enough for me to discredit it as an upset.
I will I will raise you. Now I forgot what I was gonna say. No. Okay.
Oh my God, he's on the ropes. He's on the ropes.
I will go back to the point that I remember I wanted to make. So for the 49ers Browns game, um, I'm going to look at like talent disparity here. The best player on the Browns is the best player at his position. The best player on the 49ers is the best player at his position. In a college football game, the best player on like a G5 team would probably not even like play for the best for a team that for a P5 team. Like there's talent in on both rosters. There's only 32 teams as opposed to 133, and every single team has these exact same resources. It's not there's no like no scale is being tipped there. It's not like you actually have an unfair advantage in any way. Everything is literally the same. And I think context matters in terms of how you're defining an upset. I think if you want to use gambling terms, I would kind of just consider that an underdog winning. Um, I don't
Okay, fair.
I don't think it's a literal upset. Taking a look at spreads, I found the largest spread in NFL history is 28 points. The 2013 Broncos with Peyton Manning, who threw 55 touchdowns, versus the Jacksonville Jaguars. It was 28 points. Jacksonville covered the spread. It was 35-19. And then I got a lot of other games from recent history. And there is more recently, this is a more recent thing. The NFL, the teams are covering as opposed to the games I found a little or later, like previously. Um, so that's kind of an interesting trend I noticed. However, if you look at the top 25 spreads in NFL history, not one team has ever won. Um, I would consider that a pretty significant trend. When you're highly unfavored, you don't win in the NFL. And when I say highly unfavored, I mean it's not like you're like a 10-point favorite. I mean literally no one in the world thinks you're going to win the game, and they don't.
Okay, but for me, the issue with your argument, my thought is that what if that's the case? So what is an upset to you? Like break it down, definition, bare bones. What is it? What is an upset?
Significant talent disparity, significant resource disparity, and I think the nature of the structure of the NFL, there's 32 teams. There's 133 teams in college football, and they're broken up by tiers. There's, even each conference is considered Power 5 or Power 4 now. You could even rank those tiers by resources. And each team, you even get a top 25 designation in the country out of the 133 teams. Um, and the context is important as well. Home field advantage exists. Um, you know, Injuries exist. Those also exist in the NFL, but I think mainly home field advantage is a significant one there as well. Um, I'm not saying like Georgia Tech beating Florida State in Ireland.
Mm-hmm.
I I almost expected Georgia Tech to be able to win that game. Um, I almost don't consider that an upset. I know they beat the number 10 team in the country, but I would dare to say that's not an upset in my eyes. I think a game like Appalachian State and Michigan, the first game ever to air on the Big Ten Network, that is an upset. I think college basketball, you see it in the NCAA tournament. If a 15 seed beats a 2 seed, they're favored by what, 25, 30 points. That's an upset. There's a significant resource disparity. There's a significant talent disparity. Um, it has to be significant. I think that's kind of the thing to me. The context in which the teams are structured is
So
what
for you,
classifies an upset.
in the NBA, let's say, or any other sport than football, you would say NCAA is the only time there would be an actual upset because professional sports, all teams have the resources to, have talent essentially.
Yeah, I think in professional leagues, a legitimate upset does not exist.
So everything for that reason, you would consider every, underdog story, as you would call it, just as that, not as an upset, more of an underdog story.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think the designation there's, maybe I'm making up a definition in my head, but I think just underdogs winning happens all the time in sports. I think it's a thing in professional sports as well. Is an upset an underdog? Yes. Is an underdog an upset? Is an underdog winning an upset? Not necessarily to me, because I think there's always a world where they can win, because
Hmm.
you're presented with the same resources. Your team is built of professional athletes. Your team is still built of the best college players in the world. And then on the flip side, in college, your team could be built of, an All American in your conference and a guy who would
Yeah.
never even sniff the professional league. And, you could
Yeah.
beat a team of, a team littered with guys that will. Um, I don't know if I broke that down as like tight as I wanted to, but I
As
think
concise. I get what
I
you're
think I
saying.
got my points across though.
I follow your point, and to me, I think what it comes down to is I'm gonna agree to disagree. You know what I mean? Whereas I can see
Oh yeah, no, I understand.
I can see how you differentiate an underdog and an upset, and I think that's an important thing to differentiate because in my mind, I build up at like the 2017-18 season, which we've already talked about. Now, shut up about the Eagles, I know. But the final four QBs left in that season were Tom Brady of the Patriots, Nick Foles, the backup quarterback of the Eagles, Case Keenum, who was the backup of the Vikings because Sam Bradford started that year, and
Robbie Bortles.
Blake Bortles
Robbie.
of the Jacksonville Jaguars. I think Jalen Ramsey was on that team, right? Was that his rookie year?
I think it was his second year.
Second year?
2018. Yeah, I think it was second year.
Whose rookie year was it? Was it Josh Allen of Jacksonville's rookie year? I think it was his rookie year.
I think he might have been the next year because I don't think he was on Saxonville.
Really?
I
He
think it was
wasn't?
I think it was Yannick Ngakwe's rookie year. Wait,
He might.
no. It wasn't. Because that was also his second year because Yannick Ngakwe was with Jalen Ramsey. I don't know if they had any rookies on that defense.
And then who was on the offense? Was there like DJ Chark?
I think Leonard Fournette was a rookie.
Leonard Fournette. Yes, you're right.
Yes.
That was his rookie year.
I think Leonard Fournette was a rookie.
I'm getting way too excited about
That team was so
that,
good, bro. I loved watching that fucking team.
bro. That team was the best team that was also not good enough. They did overperform. They
Oh, 100%.
they should not.
In the
They
same
no business.
in the
an
same
AFC
light though,
championship.
they should have won that game too. Cuz the fucking Miles Jack thing.
The refs.
Yeah.
I watched that game with my dad, and my dad was a big Patriots. Like he would cheer on the Patriots because he knew it'd piss me off. And I remember watching that game with my dad was the most insufferable thing ever.
Oh god.
Because I mean that Eagles Vikings NFC championship was pretty crazy because you have the Vikings coming off of a huge play to win the game in the divisional round. The Diggs sideline touchdown. The Minneapolis Miracle is still one of the biggest, coolest moments I've ever watched in NFL.
That game,
Um,
honestly, like in hindsight, that game for Minnesota must have been so draining because they were dominating the entire game, and then I think the Saints scored like 17 points
like they came
in like
back
8 minutes. Yeah,
and then
and then
they
just one
by
play and you win the
literally
game.
one missed tackle, one badly timed jump by who was that safety?
Marcus Williams, who's a really good player.
Yeah, that's also definitely a moment that haunts Williams. That has to be
I mean, he's like a
because he was young when that happened too, right?
I think that might have been his rookie year, to be completely
I
honest
think it
with you.
was.
Like
I think that was
that
his
was
rookie year.
that was the Saints draft class that was like ungodly. It was like,
Yeah.
who was it? I think Michael Thomas was the year before, but it was like Alvin Kamara, Ryan Ramczyk, Marcus Williams. I think Marshawn Lattimore. I'm missing a couple too. Even like that
Marshawn
draft class was
Lattimore.
literally the best draft class ever, probably.
Yeah, that was.
It's
a
like
really good one.
all pros. You drafted like 5 all pros in one draft.
Yeah. Wow. No, that was. I feel bad for Williams because that was a tough play. But anyways, then Vikings go into Philly,
And get
and
smashed.
they get the first touchdown of the game,
And then
and then it was a pick six that
Patrick
completely
Robinson.
shifted the
Patrick Robinson.
entire game on its head, flipped the whole thing upside down. And then, I mean, I've seen interviews of some of the Vikings players that were like, that was probably like it was a big proof to them of what having home field advantage in January means in the NFL, because so many players from the I'm not just talking up Philly right now. This is a real thing that I've seen. I promise. They talked about the link just being buzzing the entire game, and that does affect players in the NFL still. When you have a crazy crowd like that, that does affect players. And I said all this to say I don't think that it's fair to discredit home field advantage in professional leagues versus college.
I would
I think
say sorry to interrupt. I would say
no.
that
Go
it
ahead.
is entirely like, if I could scale it, like it increases on the power scale as soon as the playoffs hit. Because if you have a good home field advantage in the playoffs, it's invaluable. If you have like if you have a good home field advantage in the regular season, like that's good. You still need to win games on the road to be a good team. But if you have a good home field advantage in the playoffs, like you're probably not losing. And then if you just have like a middling home field advantage and you like somehow win your division, so you play the home games, like you could easily get bounced by a wild card team who's good on the road. Like,
Yeah, I don't know. I'm kind of half sold on the upsets thing. I'm half in, half out. I get what you're saying, but I don't know if personally I consider that enough to deem it. I think the strongest point is just the talent disparity. I think that is the best point.
I literally
And
am not going to debate you on you disagreeing with me because it's probably the most reasonable take of all time.
yeah, I think it's pretty. It's just what you consider. We'll put up a poll
Yeah, I'll make a
because I
poll.
think there's. I think it's very fair to agree to disagree, and I think it's something that it's just what do you consider. So we'll put up a poll, and you let us know. Do upsets happen in the NFL? Do upsets happen in any league? Do they happen in the NBA? Do they happen in the MLB? Do they happen in soccer?
Because hear me out on this one.
Okay.
I
Mhm.
wanted Was TCU a 20-point underdog in that game? They beat Michigan. I feel like it was like 20 and a
Uh,
half.
I don't know. I don't remember the odds. I can maybe find it.
Because there has never been a 20-point underdog to win in the NFL. And guess what? There's a 20-point underdog that won in the college football playoff. That's like, and it's not like TCU's a slouch for resources, but I think it shows you how big the gap can be, even between a Michigan to a TCU to any G5 team.
Mhm.
Like how even a Boise State, who's a really good G5 school, and they have more resources than other people, they doesn't compare to TCU, who's been in the Big 12 for decades.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this is a very fun debate, but it's one of those never-ending ones because it's an opinion thing more than a right or wrong
It's like
answer.
a completely reasonable opinion. I like
Yeah.
there's opinions that are wrong. I
Yeah,
I
there
don't
are.
I don't think you could say, at least your side, there's no way you could say you're wrong. I think I could kind of understand disagreeing with my side more than anything else, but
I think the
I think it's a
perspective you
reasonable
give is
take.
very good. I think the perspective you give is very good because I will say you also know how to argue. I'm arguing with someone who knows how to talk. Not a lot of people know how to do that, and I think there's a lot of people that if they had to give the same argument you just gave, I would destroy.
I wish I knew how to talk way better because my argument would have been a lot more compelling. Cause like I feel like I had a good argument, and man, I was sputtering a little bit, but I got my points across.
No, I thought you gave a good point, and I think you know what argument to give. You gotta give it perspective, and I think
Yeah.
that was a very fun conversation. I've been looking forward to it all week since you texted me. You texted me saying it was like, "Hey, do you think upsets happen in the NFL?" And I'm like, "I do. I do think they happen." And you said no, and we immediately decided to put a
Nah,
pin in it.
nah.
We immediately. I think that was
Yeah.
the best topic of discussion for us today.